Hey everyone, this is Chad Hasty with another edition of Lfn TV. Thanks for joining us, and remember you can always find these wraps on KFYO.com. Joining me today is the program director for 790 KFYO, Robert Snyder. Welcome, Robert.
Good morning, Chad. How are you?
Doing well. You know, we talked about a lot of things on this morning's program. One of the first things we talked about was, of course, the Obama press conference that happened last night. You watched a lot of it. You also listened to it on KFYO.com. I want to get your impressions of it.
Well, the first thing is that, and this is obviously a little tongue-in-cheek, but President Obama can't answer a question in under 5 minutes. It was very fatiguing watching and listening to the press conference, because with Obama, frankly, I don't know if he really was knowing what he was going to say from the next word. Just with the uhs, the ahs, and everything else. And
it wasn't on the teleprompter for him. It's kind of hard to do that.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing, too, with the president is that it was a very, even though there were a lot of topics that you had talked about in the morning show today that were not covered, it was still a very wide-ranging press conference, all the, covering sports all the way to the bailout. Yeah. And I think in a setting like that, I don't know if the president was exactly ready to have questions literally from, the whole spectrum.
Yeah, and one of the first questions was actually, he spent this entire time on the economy, and one of the first questions that he got was about Iran. And you could tell that he really wasn't wanting to talk about that.
Yeah, that threw him a little bit for a curveball, and I thought some of the answers about Iran were okay, but then again, he was still, going on about how, well, we're going to talk to them, we got to bring them into the table of discussion, and all of a sudden he's rehashing rhetoric from 6 months ago.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course, one of the things that he also did, we commented on this, was that he kept blaming the Bush administration, and he inherited these problems. If I'm looking for a leader, I'm looking for someone who's not looking backwards, but someone who's looking forwards.
Yeah, and that was a little disappointing because he has almost done a 180 in some respects from his campaign rhetoric that we were hearing about in October and November. And now all of a sudden it's the blame Bush card. Well, that's what we've been hearing for 8 years of people saying blame Bush, blame Bush. Well, if the president is supposed to get us out of this mess, he's not really getting us out.
Yeah, absolutely. Another local topic we talked about today had to do with some hoax phone calls going around the city of Lubbock telling people that they've been infected with HIV. Someone called, left messages on people's phones saying that they had tested positive for HIV. City of Lubbock sent out a press release trying to make it clear that no one is actually from the health department calling you and you don't have AIDS. I'm more worried about the people who actually believe that they did have AIDS, though, from these phone calls.
Yeah, and the other issue on this, which wasn't really brought up, is the people that were called. If somebody in the health department, say an employee that was just wanting to play a prank, got a hold of a list of people, names and numbers that maybe come in for that type of testing or something else, there's some huge privacy concerns and issues just as far as how are they handling their paperwork. Yeah. And that's something I would hope an investigation gets launched into, because obviously if you're going down into the health department to get sensitive testing like that, for whatever reason, you don't want that to be leaked out. And I mean, that's almost unconscionable if it was somebody playing a prank.
Yeah, and that's probably the next step in where this story goes to. The other big story we talked about today that has not only implications here in Texas, but nationwide, is Mexican drug violence spilling over into the United States, talking about the Mexican drug cartels and the violence that's happening as far away as Anchorage, Alaska, Atlanta, Phoenix. It's not just your border towns anymore that's getting infected by the drug cartels, but now it's spreading all across the U.S.
Yeah, and Governor Perry has spent some time down in Laredo, because we've had issues in Laredo, Nuevo Laredo, on both sides of the border with that. And obviously there's some talk of, with Juarez and El Paso now, for lack of a better term, I guess, heating up as far as the fighting with the drug war. And then obviously you've got San Diego, Tijuana on the West Coast as well. And it's something where I think on our side of the border, the only thing that can truly, I guess, diffuse it in the long run is more boots on the ground, stricter enforcement of the laws, and anybody that's basically bringing the drug violence over is going to have to be dealt with swiftly and severely.
Yeah, absolutely. It would also help if we stopped suing by $32 million ranchers who have turned over 12,000 illegal immigrants.
Well, yeah, and that's something else, because the state of Texas has those border cameras, the unmanned cameras that are trying to help the Border Patrol and help secure the border, but it comes down to the people that do live along the border. They're going to have to take a proactive stance and basically force their local municipalities to step in line.
That wraps up today's edition of LFN TV. Send your comments, chat@kfyo.com. That's chat@kfyo.com. Join us for Lubbock's First News, weekday morning, 6 to 9 a.m. on 790 KFYO.